Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and I decided I needed a new headlamp, and let me explain why and what my criteria were. I was out skiing the other night, and I was using this. This is one of my favorite headlamps. This is a little old Phoenix HM50R. It's a tiny little thing, uses one CR123 battery. I've got a rechargeable in it, and if you have the rechargeable in it, it does have an external charging port right there. It does mostly what I need. It has, a reasonably bright light and then also a very low light. Those are the two things I like. It swivels inside this cradle, and of course you could pull it out and have a little stand-up flashlight, but it's designed as a headlamp, and I want a headlamp. But anyway, I was a couple hours into the ski, and I thought, I really should have something a little bit more powerful than this, or longer run time. I can dial it down in its lumens and, probably last a while, but I should probably be looking at something a little more substantial. This is fabulous because it's a teeny weeny little size. I mean, and the whole thing fits. That's one of the great things about it. So I'm certainly not getting rid of it, but I started looking at the other headlamps I use. I've got this one. I use this sometimes for chores around the homestead. It's a fairly bright light. Really nice clean light, has several settings, runs on an 18650, which is in the back here. Uses a kind of a headband battery holder on the back, and then it runs on the front. This is okay a lot of times, but it can get in the way if you're using helmets or certain hats, or trying to lay down or be on your back with the thing. This one, standard black diamond, this one actually I can charge. It uses kind of a conventional set of 4 AAA batteries, which is probably, we are so far beyond that. Do not give that a whole lot of thought, because 4 AAA batteries, I can't change them in the dark. In fact, if I pop this open, you can see I've got rechargeables in it. There's one buried. I'm sorry, this one's the 3 AAA batteries. I've got another one with 4, but it's a whole lot of moving parts. And if it's dark and you need new batteries, you can't change them without a lot of trial and error or another light. This used to be one of my favorites, this old Phoenix. It runs on, I think, 2 AA's, but it was a little bit tough to get into, but really durable light. Anyway, so I came up with some criteria. I wanted, number one, onboard recharging. And what that means is that I can plug a cable into it, just like that. And preferably USB-C charging, so I can easily charge this thing back up. But I also want it to be able to, number 2, be battery swappable. This one's got an 18650 in it. It looks like this. Is it possible to run a pair of standard CR123s in it? And in case of this one, the answer is yes. The third thing was an extremely low setting. A lot of times, everyone's interested in these high lumen numbers. High lumens can be good, but they don't last very long, and most of the time, that's not what you need. So on this one, I can actually turn it on. It's pointed. It's on full blast. This here is 1/3 of a lumen, right there, and that's actually quite handy. So I definitely want a low setting. A lot of them are 5 lumens. Some only go as low as, say, 30 lumens, which to me is like their low setting is a high setting for a lot of close quarters work or inside tents or whatever. So number 4, I wanted, essentially, the reason I started out, all-night runtime. I want to be able to have a setting on it that will give me, say, 8 hours of runtime. And then the next thing was easy operation with gloves. So if I throw a glove on, and can I operate the light? And the answer's yes, without any trouble. This one has got basically the sides, it's a cylinder and 2 ends. And it doesn't matter if I'm holding it by the ends which one I push, because, Newton's laws, I'm pushing both. And I can easily turn that on. I can find it and, turn it on, with a gloved hand without any trouble, whether or not I can feel it. So those were the big things that I wanted. I wanted higher capacity than this little guy. which meant probably going with an 18650 over a rechargeable, smaller CR123 type. There are a couple of other versions of headlamps that do this roughly the same thing, but they had different interactions in the way you operate it, or they didn't have onboard charging the way that I liked it, or they had it in a more complex headband system, which causes a problem to me because I want to be able to, in either side, to rotate this in exactly the position I want, including straight up. And most of them are only designed to go down. That's another thing, is the lockout. But most of them only go down unless you put them on upside down. Now, why would you do that? Well, one of the reasons is if you're in a small space or a tent or something, you point it straight up and use the ambient light that bounces off of the ceiling so you're not blinding whoever it is that you're looking at or talking to. So I can turn my headlamp straight up, even though it's on my head, and light up an area but not blind anybody. I also can, for really close work, if I was doing first aid or tying flies or whatever, fishing, I can point this almost straight down right in front of my face. So it rotates 360 degrees, so there is no question about how far this thing can go. And a lot of times these little bouncy, kind of things end up breaking. This has just got two little weak hinges there. This thing here, the hinges in here, it's pretty strong, but still a bit of a problem. Now this does have red, this doesn't have red. Some people really need red. I don't for the stuff I'm doing. So what else? Well, first it remembers its last setting, and I can toggle through additional settings just by holding it down. I get a battery indicator here. Blue means it's fully charged. Red means it needs some work. Also, I can hold it down and get on that absolute lowest setting. And that's really critical, like if you're in a really dark spot and you don't want to blind yourself by turning it on full. However, if I want it full, watch this. I can double click it, and that's the turbo mode instantly. And then triple click, rather than a strobe, which I consider fairly useless, if I triple click this, you see that? There's my SOS. Now that's useful. So that checked boxes I wasn't even thinking about checking, but I was really happy with it. So I looked up several. I ended up looking at the Olight Perrin 2 and the THRUNITE. This one here, which is the THRUNITE 30 V2, or the TH 30 V2. So both of them were in their second generation, which is good. I like to see that evolution. The second thing is the Olight was a lot bigger. It used a larger battery. This is an 18650. This one's a 3100 milliamp. Maximum produces 3320 lumens. The Olight produced less lumens, bigger battery, and heavier. If I throw this thing on the scale, right here I'm at about 5.8 ounces with the battery, and a lot of times they give you the weight without the battery. I don't know why they do that, since you have to have a battery in it for it to be any use. Battery weighs about 1.6 ounces. My little guy here that I really like, you have to include the headband, 2.8 ounces. So it's fairly light. The Olight, on the other hand, comes in at over 7 ounces from my measurement, that's a big chunk of weight bouncing around on your forehead. The Olight and this THRUNITE both have a top strap over the top of your head. You don't have to use it, but it actually really makes a big difference. This Phoenix here had a top strap. That's when I discovered that these can actually be really helpful. This little guy doesn't really need one. This one should have one, but it doesn't, because this thing comes in at a beastly 5.7 with the battery. Actually, without the battery. Nope, that's with the battery. So you get much above probably 4 ounces, and you really should have a head strap here. And both the Olight and and this THRUNITE had that. This one's really easy to adjust. You know, you can just quickly snug it and then center it. Some of them, like this one, this was kind of a pain. I don't know why, but this thing just slides, loosens up. So it's old school, but it actually has a place, but probably in a first aid kit. But I wanted something a little more substantial, a little more solid, something that's more waterproof, something I can easily charge constantly, you know, have it at the ready, and be able to easily operate it with a glove. It has some other features if you're interested in this particular light. Great, look it up. I contacted my friends at THRUNITE and said I've zeroed in for various reasons on this light. And, you know, was there a chance I could get a hold of one? I've been using it pretty hard. I really like it. I really, really think this is an outstanding light. It's a grown-up one to my favorite light. This guy here. This one, there is a new generation. I think I mentioned in another video I don't really care for. They took out the lowest setting, and I don't know why. This one, the lowest setting on this is about 5 lumens. So, I am still curious about the Olight, maybe for some other uses. That one uses a 4,000 milliamp battery, so it's a whole third more powerful here. Uses what's called a 21700 battery. Again, a big charger, big rechargeable battery, and it uses the kind of the proprietary Olight charging on the back. But again, you're pushing over 7 ounces. So you're starting to put some significant weight on your head. It also costs a little bit more, but with the Olight sales, all these seem to get around $60 to $70. Anyway, this is the one that I've settled on for now. I'm sure I'll be restless and look at other headlamps, but I really like this THRUNITE TH30 version 2 or V2. As a good, solid headlamp. I take them serious. You know, my life might depend on them. And I've worked with a lot of different headlamps from a lot of different companies. And that's where I'm at right now. And with that, Doc out.